From October 2023 through September 2024, U.S. Border Patrol seized nearly 22,000 pounds of illegal fentanyl. And through the first 6 months of this fiscal year, they've already seized another 7.7 thousand pounds of the deadly drug. With so much fentanyl pouring into the country, some governments are turning up the heat on suspected dealers in an effort to regain control of the crisis. In part one of this special report, I took a deeper dive into the crackdown they're calling for and found out just how quickly fentanyl can take a life. 2 milligrams, that's all it takes. If the sugar on the end of this pencil were street fentanyl, it would be enough to kill most humans. In 2023, fentanyl and synthetic opiates like it killed about 2,000 of every 100,000 Virginians. And in West Virginia, between 2018 and 2022, fentanyl and its analogs were responsible for 71% of all overdose deaths. That's one reason why, on his first full day in office, Governor Patrick Morrisey had this to say.
Fentanyl has ravaged our state and killed so many people. We've all been working very hard fighting the drug plague, but I think we need additional help. We need the federal government to step in and work with us. So I am asking our West Virginia congressional delegation to work with me and for them to advance policies that list fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction. And we plan to be engaging the Trump administration on that fact.
So what is a weapon of mass destruction anyway? The short answer, it all depends on the intent. According to the Department of Homeland Security, a WMD can be anything that's nuclear, radiological, chemical, biological, or essentially anything else that's designed to bring harm to a large number of people. The question is, can those trafficking fentanyl into and throughout this country possibly be charged with murder or even be considered terrorists? To learn more about how a substance like fentanyl can spiral out of control, I made the trip to Virginia Military Institute for a conversation with someone who spent time on the front lines of another infamous drug epidemic. Michael Marshall has been the chief of police at VMI for 18 years, but he began his work in law enforcement in Albemarle County as a sheriff's deputy in 1988. His chance to become a detective came in the early 90s, just as crack cocaine was finding Charlottesville.
A lot of violence associated with it. We was experiencing a lot of people coming in out of the country into the United States and was setting up what we called shop, their operations in our community there in Charlottesville.
But it wasn't just Charlottesville struggling with crack. Cities across the nation were dealing with the scourge, the panic eventually reaching society's highest rungs.
This is crack cocaine, seized a few days ago by drug enforcement agents in a park just across the street from the White House. It could easily have been heroin or PCP. It's as innocent looking as candy, but it's turning our cities into battle zones, and it's murdering our children.
Back in Charlottesville, Marshall says the international drug gangs had the city in a vice grip, and he agrees that the youngest were among the hardest hit.
They come in, they try to take over your communities, and they try to own you, and then they taunt the young kids, and they use them to sell their drugs. But we had young 15, 16, and 17-year-old kids getting paid $300 and $400 a week cash to stand on the corner to sell their drugs for them.
Fast forward 30 years to the fentanyl crisis. This is a movie he's seen before. The hate, the violence, and the body count are jogging an entire era of bad memories.
It's like deja vu all over again. But it's instead of crack, it's fentanyl. 1 kilo of fentanyl could possibly kill 500,000 people. 1 kilo, that's that much, could kill over 500,000 people in our United States.
Mandy Bishop was almost one of them. A native of Lee County, Virginia, she'd been in and out of rehab twice, battling meth and heroin addiction. Bishop thought she was in recovery, but she says one lonely holiday season became too much to bear.
I had been clean about 90 days, and Christmas rolled around, and in my brain, I thought I was fixed. I was recovered, I was done. But I couldn't see my kids. It was Christmas, and I kind of threw a pity party for myself and went back to what I knew.
She says a neighbor in her apartment building realized she was struggling and brought her a hit of heroin to lift her spirits. But this time, things were different.
I went to the bathroom and used it. I used the same amount that I would have always used previously. But when I stuck the needle in my arm, that's the last thing I remember. I guess I hit the bathroom floor, the needle was still in my arm, and I had overdosed.
Thousands of Americans dying of fentanyl poisoning every year. The conversation is turning to where we go from here. Are fentanyl traffickers terrorists? Or, with new data showing positive trends when it comes to fentanyl-related deaths, should lawmakers proceed with caution before cracking down even harder? Let's explore both sides of that argument as we pick up where we left off yesterday in part 2 of this special report.
I went to the bathroom and used it. I used the same amount that I would have always used previously. But when I stuck the needle in my arm, that's the last thing I remember. I guess I hit the bathroom floor, the needle was still in my arm, and I had overdosed. It just so happened that the person who brought me the heroin had Narcan in their apartment, and they ran to their apartment and got Narcan and saved me. And I've been clean since then.
What Bishop didn't know was the heroin she used that night was contaminated with fentanyl. She's now completely clean, working as a recovery program manager at Strength and Peers in the Shenandoah Valley, helping others struggling with addiction find the help they need.
Some people don't have the option to recover, and it's something I tell, people who stigmatize addiction, and, a lot of people are to the point they're going to use just let them die, but everybody, as long as they're still breathing, there's a chance that they're going to recover.
Unfortunately, plenty of people will never have that chance. In 2023, about 29 of every 100,000 Virginians died of overdose. 23 of those deaths were fentanyl related. And young people are especially vulnerable. Virginia Department of Health data shows fentanyl overdoses kill roughly 100 teens and young adults in the Commonwealth every year. So I caught up with Suzanne Youngkin, the outgoing First Lady of Virginia. She's pounded the drum about fentanyl poisoning since early 2022, and Youngkin says teens no longer have to seek out deadly drugs. The drugs find them.
Very often, these very dangerous pills are being sold on social media platforms that are routinely used by our young people, things like Snapchat, TikTok, Instagram. So we have to be vigilant.
But Youngkin quoted CDC data showing Virginia now leads the nation in the reduction of overdose deaths, a 40% drop year over year. She says it's proof that fentanyl awareness programs like her It Only Takes One initiative are working.
Everything from law enforcement to school systems to health practitioners to our corrections department. Everyone is leaning in on this issue. And again, we are seeing good and great progress.
But back at Strength and Peers, Programs and Services Director Lindsay I warns that crackdowns come with consequences. She agrees fentanyl is out of control, but she worries about a knee-jerk reaction that could hamper its actual medical purpose.
There's a lot of good with it, but it's the fake fentanyl, it's the counterfeit that is causing these problems, and not necessarily the pharmaceutical level. And so I don't want that to be hurt in this whole war on drugs.
Since the 80s, law enforcement has largely come around to treating drug addicts as victims rather than criminals. That's reflected in the crisis intervention training Strength and Peers conducts periodically with Harrisonburg Police. I understands the anger around illegal fentanyl, but she says a war on drugs style crackdown could have an unintended outcome.
So I see both sides of it, but I don't know if that's going to be everything that we need it to be to make it safe and effective. I think you're going to look at potentially, having these harsher punishments, but it's not going to change who we're working with and what it looks like here. It's just going to increase other options in the drug supply.
Others are past the point of diplomacy.
When I hear that our government has declared last month in February that the cartels are terrorists, why not? Why wouldn't we? What are they doing? They're killing U.S. citizens.
I had no idea ever that I was using fentanyl, and no clue.
Now, on the other hand, the dealers and traffickers know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, they know exactly what they're putting in it. They know that they're putting fentanyl in these drug supplies, and they know that it's taking people out, killing them.
In your eyes, is that murder?
Yeah.